Have you ever felt misunderstood because you just couldn't find the right words for your emotions? Daily English Lab, the podcast where real conversations help you speak real English. Hey, English learners! Welcome back to Daily English Lab. I'm Lily.
And I'm Henry. And today we're going somewhere a little deeper than usual.
We're talking about emotional intelligence, what it is, why it matters, and most importantly, how to talk about it in English.
Because emotional intelligence isn't just a psychology topic, it's a daily life skill. It shows up in every conversation, every relationship, every difficult moment.
And the vocabulary around it is incredibly useful, not just for talking about feelings in an abstract way, but for navigating real situations, at work, at home, with friends, with yourself.
Today's episode is going to give you that vocabulary, words and phrases that help you understand yourself, understand others, and communicate more clearly and kindly.
Which, when you think about it, is exactly what good English communication is.
Let's get into it.
Henry, let's start with the basics. What do you understand by emotional intelligence?
When I first heard the term, I honestly thought it sounded like something from a self-help book that I'd never need in real life.
And now?
Now, I think it's probably the most practically useful skill I've ever worked on. More useful than any technical skill.
Why?
Because every single thing I do involves other people. And other people have feelings. And those feelings affect everything. How they communicate, how they make decisions, how they respond to me.
And emotional intelligence is the ability to understand and manage those feelings, both yours and theirs.
Exactly. It has a few main components. First, self-awareness, knowing what you're feeling and why. Second, self-regulation, managing those feelings instead of being controlled by them.
Then there's empathy, understanding what other people are feeling. And finally, social skills, using all of that awareness to communicate and connect effectively.
It sounds simple when you list it like that.
It sounds simple, but applying it in a real moment, when you're angry or hurt or misunderstood, that's where it gets genuinely challenging. Because in those moments, your emotions want to take over. And emotional intelligence is the practice of not letting them run the show entirely. Henry, tell me about a moment when self-awareness made a real difference for you.
There's one that comes to mind immediately.
Tell me.
A few years ago, I was in a work meeting where someone challenged one of my ideas in front of the group, and I felt this immediate wave of, I can only describe it as heat, like something rising in my chest.
Defensive anger.
Exactly. My first instinct was to argue back immediately, to defend myself loudly, to make sure everyone in the room knew that person was wrong.
Which would have been?
A disaster. Because the other person wasn't being malicious, they were just disagreeing. Publicly, which is a completely normal thing to do.
But in the moment, it felt like an attack.
Because I was triggered. And in the past, I would have responded to the trigger without thinking.
So, what did you do instead?
I paused, just for a few seconds. And in that pause, I asked myself, what am I actually feeling right now? And the answer was embarrassment, not anger. I was embarrassed to be challenged publicly.
That distinction changes everything.
Completely. Because once I knew it was embarrassment, I could respond to that instead of lashing out. I said something like, that's an interesting point. Let me think about that. And the meeting moved on.
That pause, that one small pause between the trigger and the response, that's self-awareness in action.
And it took years of practice to get there. But the pause is learnable. That's the important thing.
Lily, what about empathy? Do you have a story where empathy changed a situation for you?
Yes, and it's one I'm not entirely proud of in the beginning.
The best stories never are.
I had a close friend who went through a difficult period. She lost her job and was really struggling. And my instinct, because I'm a problem solver by nature, was to immediately give her advice.
Fix-it mode.
Exactly. Have you tried this? What about that? Here's what I would do. And she got quieter and quieter during those conversations.
She wasn't asking to be fixed.
She wasn't. She was asking to be heard. And I completely missed that because I was focused on solutions instead of on her.
How did you realize?
She eventually said to me, very gently, "I don't need you to fix it. I just need you to listen."
It must have stung a little.
It did, but it was one of the most valuable things anyone has ever said to me, because it made me realize that empathy isn't about having the right answer. It's about making someone feel understood.
Feeling understood is often more healing than being given a solution.
Sometimes it's entirely more healing. And that shift from fix-it mode to listen mode completely changed my friendships and my relationship with myself, honestly.
Because the same compassion you learn to give others, you start to give yourself.
That's exactly right. Empathy turned inward becomes self-compassion, and that changes everything. Dear learner, maybe you've been in Henry's situation, a moment where you felt triggered and reacted before thinking.
Or in Lily's situation, wanting to help so much that you forgot to simply listen.
Both are completely human, and emotional intelligence doesn't mean never feeling those things. It means building enough awareness to choose your response more carefully.
And today's vocabulary will help you talk about that process in English with clarity on depth. Let's get into the vocabulary, starting with words for understanding yourself. Self-awareness vocabulary.
The first essential word is triggered. We used it in Henry's story. To be triggered means to have a strong emotional reaction caused by something external.
I was triggered by that comment means something about that comment activated a deep emotional response.
Important to note, being triggered doesn't mean you're weak. It means something touched a sensitive area, usually something connected to past experience.
Next word, underlying. Underlying means hidden beneath the surface. The underlying emotion is the real feeling beneath the obvious reaction.
In Henry's story, the underlying emotion was embarrassment, not anger. The anger was the surface. The embarrassment was underneath.
Very useful for describing emotional layers. The underlying issue here is fear, not frustration.
Then there's self-regulation. Self-regulation is the ability to manage your emotions and impulses, not suppress them, manage them.
The difference between suppressing and managing is important.
Very important. Suppressing is pushing feelings down and pretending they don't exist. Managing is acknowledging them and choosing how to respond.
"I'm working on my self-regulation" is a very emotionally intelligent sentence.
And finally for this section, impulse. An impulse is a sudden, strong urge to do or say something, often without thinking. I had an impulse to argue back immediately.
Emotional intelligence is largely the skill of pausing before acting on impulses.
The pause between impulse and action. That's where growth lives. Now, vocabulary for understanding other people. Empathy vocabulary.
The word everyone knows, but not everyone practices. Empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person.
Notice understand and share. Not fix, not advise. Understand and share.
That distinction is everything. I feel empathy for what you're going through means I am with you in this feeling.
Related word, validate. To validate someone means to acknowledge that their feelings are real and understandable.
That sounds really difficult. Your frustration makes complete sense. That's validation.
You're not necessarily agreeing with everything they say. You're acknowledging that their emotional experience is real and legitimate.
I can see why you'd feel that way is one of the most powerful validating phrases in English.
Then there's perspective taking. Perspective taking means actively trying to see a situation from another person's point of view.
Not just knowing they have a different view, actually trying to inhabit it.
Let me try to see this from your perspective. Shows genuine emotional intelligence.
And finally, attuned. To be attuned to someone means to be sensitively aware of their emotional state, like you're tuned into their frequency.
She is very attuned to the emotions of people around her. It means she picks up on feelings without being told.
Being attuned is one of the most valuable qualities in any relationship.
Lily, let's talk about how emotional intelligence shows up in difficult conversations, because that's where it's tested most.
Difficult conversations are exactly where emotional intelligence either saves a relationship or damages it.
What does low emotional intelligence look like in a difficult conversation?
Reacting immediately, raising your voice, shutting down completely, saying things you don't mean because you're flooded with emotion.
Flooded. That's a great word there. What does it mean specifically?
When you're emotionally flooded, you're so overwhelmed by your feelings that your rational thinking becomes temporarily unavailable.
Your body is in fight or flight mode, and your brain can't think clearly.
Exactly. When you're flooded, the worst thing you can do is continue the conversation. The best thing is to take a break.
Not to run away, just to pause and regulate.
You can say, I need a few minutes before we continue this conversation. That's emotional intelligence in action. You're not shutting down. You're buying time to think clearly.
And what does high emotional intelligence look like in the same situation?
It looks like noticing you're triggered and pausing. It looks like saying, I hear you, before defending yourself. It looks like asking, help me understand your perspective, instead of, you're wrong.
It looks like choosing your words deliberately, instead of letting your emotions choose them for you.
And it doesn't mean being emotionless. It means being emotionally aware. There's a huge difference.
You can be deeply moved and still respond thoughtfully. Those aren't opposites.
High emotional intelligence actually feels more, not less. It's just processed differently.
Lily, you mentioned self-compassion earlier. I want to come back to that because I think it's an underrated part of emotional intelligence.
I'm glad you came back to it, because most people think emotional intelligence is about managing other people's feelings or navigating social situations. But it starts with how you treat yourself.
If you are harsh and critical with yourself every time you make a mistake, that internal harshness leaks into everything.
Into your relationships, your confidence, your communication. You become less patient with others because you're not patient with yourself.
Self-compassion is treating yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a close friend.
When your friend makes a mistake, you don't call them stupid or worthless. You say, it happens. What can you learn from this?
but we often don't extend that same gentleness to ourselves.
And the practice of self-compassion, genuinely treating yourself with kindness, changes the whole internal emotional landscape.
You become less reactive because you feel less threatened.
You become more empathetic because you understand human imperfection from the inside.
It all connects. Self-awareness leads to self-regulation, leads to self-compassion, leads to empathy for others.
One growing the next, like roots and branches on the same tree. Let's take today's most important words into the word tour.
Our first word is triggered. 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 It means having a strong emotional reaction caused by something external. You could say, I felt triggered by that comment, so I took a moment before responding. Or, understanding what triggers you is an important part of self-awareness.
Our next word is validate. 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 It means to acknowledge that someone's feelings are real and understandable. You could say, I just want to validate how difficult this has been for you. Or, sometimes people need to feel validated before they can move forward.
Our next phrase is self-regulation. 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 It means the ability to manage your emotions and impulses, rather than be controlled by them. You could say, self-regulation is the skill of pausing before reacting. Or, I'm working on my self-regulation in stressful situations.
Our next word is attuned. 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 It means sensitively aware of someone else's emotional state. You could say, good listeners are attuned to the feelings behind the words. Or, she's incredibly attuned to the mood of people around her.
Our last phrase is perspective taking. Perspective taking. Perspective taking. Perspective taking. It means actively trying to see a situation from another person's point of view. You could say, perspective taking is one of the most powerful tools in any relationship. Or, before I responded, I tried some perspective taking to understand where they were coming from.
5 words: triggered, validate, self-regulation, attuned, and perspective taking. 5 words that can genuinely change how you communicate. Now it's time to use your English right here. This is Speak with Lily. Say your lines out loud, thoughtfully and clearly.
Let's talk about emotional intelligence in your own life. Think of a recent moment when you felt emotionally triggered. What happened?
That sounds like a real moment. What was the underlying emotion beneath your first reaction?
That's a very self-aware answer. Now tell me, how did you regulate yourself in that moment? Or how do you wish you had?
That's honest. Even knowing what you do differently is growth. Now, think of someone in your life. How do you usually show them empathy?
That sounds like genuine care. And one last question. What does self-compassion look like for you on a difficult day?
Hold on to that. You deserve that same gentleness you'd give anyone else.
Thank you for going deep with me today. That took real courage.
So, dear learner, emotional intelligence is not a personality trait you either have or don't. It's a skill built slowly, through awareness, through practice, through a lot of imperfect moments.
You don't have to be perfect at it. You just have to keep noticing, keep pausing, keep choosing your response a little more deliberately each time.
And the vocabulary from today? Triggered, validate, self-regulation, attuned, perspective-taking. These aren't just English words. They're tools for living and connecting better.
Use them in English. Use them in your thinking. Use them in how you understand yourself and the people you love.
Take care of your English.
And take care of your emotional world.
This is Lily.
This is Henry.
And you've been listening to Daily English Lab.
Bye for now.